I have 13 of the top tips for Stellaris 4.0 that I wish I knew earlier, as it would have helped my empires out when I first started this update a couple months ago. These tips have come from my countless hours of playing since the huge patch, allow you to get the most out of your pops and any empire you play. This is as generic as possible. Let's get straight into it. Now, the first tip is going to be about what building to build first. In my opinion, it has to be the monument. Why? Well, let's break it down. It gives unity from jobs plus 5%. Okay, on our planets, we will have some unity jobs, such as the bureaucrats, maybe entertainers. Obviously, this won't work if you're just adult consciousness, but for every other empire, you will need the monument. The main thing here is that unity per 100 civilians, you get plus 0.5 unity. If we look at our economy tab and scroll down, we have 1.6 thousand of them, meaning this is just going to give us 8 unity, but it also gets the buff, but there's much more as well. Consumer goods upkeep plus 0.25 is a little bit annoying per 100 civilians, but it's fine. You should start off with quite a fair few consumer goods. It will also produce 1 unity for each ascension perk. We won't actually have any at the start of the game, but it'll scale a little bit as you go on. But the most important thing is that civilians gain additional effects from Empire's ethics. Now, they will give governing ethics extraction, I believe, for anything, but more importantly, depending on our ethics, we will get bonus resources. The full list is on the wiki and on screen right now, but authoritarian will give you an edict fund, egalitarian gives you trade, materialist gives you research, spiritualist unity, militarist naval capacity, pacifist amenities, xenophobe happiness, and xenophile pop upkeep reduction. Gestalts give 0.5 unity and 0.5 trade with a mineral upkeep. These effects are doubled at the fanatic type, so currently we're getting 2 trade per civilian and 0.65 pop upkeep reduction. I don't know why it doesn't say on here, it probably should, but this is very strong to build. For example, we're currently producing 25 trade and 800 amenities, but if we build a monument, we go to 16 unity, 90 trade, 950 amenities, and minus 12% pop upkeep reduction. This helps your early game economy massively, and it's a point in the game where you actually have a lot of civilians because every empire starts with a bunch. So it's better to build this early than later on when you probably have a lot of jobs and not civilians working. Then later game, when you have a lot of civilians, you can put these back down on other planets. Now, similarly, this is making a tradition insanely strong. As the next tip, mercantile. Mercantile used to be a niche tradition that would help you with trade. Trade has gone through a rework in 4.0 where it acts as your currency and also pays for any deficits that you may have, making it an important resource. Now, by default, 50% of your collected trade goes into energy credits. So at the start of the game, trade also makes you energy, which is pretty nice. Now, the reason mercantile is so strong early game isn't because of the trader upkeep reduction when you adopt it. It's because of trickle up economics and more reasons coming soon. Trade per civilian plus 1. Civilians go a bit mad. We also get 100 amenities and only 0.1 consumer good upkeep. So we go from 90 trade to 119 and a bunch of amenities. Amenities will not be an issue on this planet anymore. Now, you can also get more trader jobs, more amenities for traders, blah blah. Adaptive economic policies is where this becomes very strong as well. Instead of converting trade into energy, we can now convert trade into consumer goods or unity. You access that by going to government, policies and edicts, and then in that trade policy, you can see if we can go from 50% trade to energy to 25% trade into consumer goods or unity. This is incredibly strong because you can make your planets into alloys instead of consumer goods, or you can just spam science and get all your unity from trade. This was possible in the old version, but now losing out on the energy doesn't really matter because energy is not used for that much anymore. So switching to consumer goods or unity is very good. And it doesn't stop there. You also get more trade value from jobs, which applies to your civilians. We went up to 127. You can also reduce market fee, which we will talk about soon, but you also get 10% monthly trade when you finish it, as well as access to the trade league, which is very strong. Why? Firstly, because federations are no longer locked behind diplomacy. It's a technology. I believe that's tier 2. So once you finish mercantile and get this tech, you can just make a trade federation. What does a trade federation do? At the default level, you will get access to the trade league trade policy, which grants energy credits, unity, and consumer goods equal to 50% of your collected trade. Do you know how crazy that is? It combined all of the previous ones that we saw, and we just get them all. Honestly, you might want to get a federation, my friends, because that's incredible. As you level up the federation, you'll also get trade, envoys, just a bunch of trade bonuses, really, which help you out a bunch. And yes, that's all just from Mercantile. I pretty much always go this straight away now, as it can set up your economy massively. And yes, I have 6k Unity 90 years in without building a single trade world. It's mainly all from trade. The best tip is to subscribe to the channel. I upload a lot of Stellaris gameplay guides, walkthroughs, everything to do with Stellaris pretty much. You'll pick up so many tips, as well as fun Empire builds to play. Just subscribe, you may as well. The next tip is to deselect certain jobs. For example, we just started out here, we do have that monument. We want civilians. Now, this planet is perfectly fine. We don't have any crime. Why are we bothering working those 100 pops? They could be something more useful, so we'll get rid of them. I mean, it's even the same for the entertainers. They're producing a measly 2,500 amenities. We don't need that many. They can be unemployed. This 300 jobs will then go to the civilians, which makes a big deal early on in the game. Now, crime will be an issue. At 30% crime on your planet, you will get crime events, which are really annoying. You don't want to go above 30%. Now, instead of manually coming in and checking and working the enforcers if you need to, you can actually come over to the automation button here, turn everything off because automation kind of sucks, and just leave crime on. When we turn automation on, it will just monitor the crime and will essentially move the enforcers depending if you actually need them. So I believe if I turn them on, it should turn them off. It's slowly decreasing them, but it should slowly increase them as well when you need them. I would just set it to 0 to start with and then let it increase it if it needs to, but then you actually never need to worry about crime and you're getting the most out of your pops. Okay, so we've gone through our planets and maybe our first tradition, but you need to explore. Now, you don't always get the best starts like this where you can actually see 3 of your planets. So instead, you want to click on your science ship, click science ship automation, and then turn off survey and just let it explore. This science ship will now just explore systems and leave behind marks of where there are potential planets. You can then come back with a second science ship or even that science ship and survey on the planets and survey in a line. This will mean you can explore quicker than the AI, get more planets, expand to those choke points, and then fill in the gaps. To take this a step further, I also use my military ship to explore. If you come over to your military ship, then click split fleet, then select the one fleet that has an admiral, you can actually click and let them go and explore these empty spaces. Now, you do have to stay on top of this because you can only queue ahead slightly and there's no automation for it. They also might get caught by enemy ships and could die, which happens a lot in my runs, but it's worth the knowledge. Like you can see, we're just going really quick. Instead of surveying every system, we're actually exploring every system, which then we know, okay, there's no planets over here. We will go the other way. Or if we found a planet over here, for example, we could survey in a line. Well, here example, we could survey from here, queue you up by holding shift and survey straight to this planet. Information is key. You also get more first contacts, which you can then envoice to, which when you complete them, you'll get influence, which allows you to expand even quicker. It's all about getting a really good start. Now, once you do start expanding, you will have outposts that you can expand into star bases. These will cost you 200 alloys and a year to build, and you do start with a cap of 3. Now, you want to get to the cap as soon as you can. Star bases are incredibly strong, and I'll show you why. This is the next tip. I will upgrade them as soon as I can when I have the alloys and my colony ships are built for the start of the planets. Something you can do to speed this up is come over to government, policies and edicts, and fortify the border. Everyone gets this edict. It costs 7 unity. It will be below your edict fund, meaning it's not going to eat away from your monthly unity. And this gives you 50% upgrade speed and more starbase capacity. So it's going to take 200 and whatever days that was, 240 instead, and then you will wait for it to upgrade. Once upgraded, you can build 2 modules and a building. In the modules, you can build a shipyard, which means you can build ships, anchorage, which increases your naval capacity, gun batteries for defense, solar panels, and trade hubs. Solar panels give energy, and trade hubs give trade. Now, early game, you want to build economy, which is either energy or trade. This is because these don't use civilians or pops to actually work them. They just give you this output. For example, this trade hub's producing us a base of 8 trade for an upkeep of 1 energy, and a cost of 50 alloys. Now, that base energy isn't really much, and the alloy cost is a little bit, but we could use trade to actually buy alloys if we really wanted to, with it costing 240 trade for 50 alloys. This will pay off over time. It's kind of an investment, and besides, you don't want the alloys sitting there. Now, I always recommend going for that trade hub, especially because Mercantile is very strong. As you can see, we're actually getting 10% extra trade because of the Mercantile traditions finished, but also remember, trade gets converted into either energy, consumer goods, or unity, or all of them if you have the Federation. So trade is just very, very powerful, and having loads of star bases at the start of the game producing you trade is insane. Now I'll always build 2 of them, and then on the building slot, you can build a whole host of things, but we only care about the Hydro Bay. We're getting 10 food without working any jobs for an upkeep of 1 energy. This is insanely worth it, because food, if we have excess, we can sell for trade. So all in all, just base without putting any modifiers on, we're producing 16 trade and 10 food. 10 food would sell for 8 trade, so that brings our total up to 24 trade. And if 50% is going to energy, that means 12 energy. So we're producing 24 trade, 12 energy, which will definitely pay off over time, which also could be consumer goods at 25% or unity at 25%. I usually go for the unity early game, so these trade hubs are also producing us more unity, which is insane. Okay, so I just nerded out a little bit, but too long didn't read. I've taken into account the energy upkeep, the alloy cost, and converted everything into 1 resource trade based on the buy and sell. If you built this exact same setup with no buffs, so I've not taken into account Ministry of Defense, Mercantile Tradition, any reductions to star bases, it would take 5.07 years to pay off this star base, which isn't that much. Anything after that is profitable. This is also assuming you have the energy to trade. The math might actually work out a little bit different if you had consumer goods, and obviously you get nothing from unity to sell, but 5 years return on investment for your star bases that look like this is pretty good. Now upgrading them, I'm not sure, because it costs 500 alloys to upgrade to a starhold, but who knows. You can also replace your capital with a Hydro Bay at the start of the game too to produce 10 food. You don't really need the crew quarter, because the upkeep reduction on 2 ships, because you're sending 1 off, doesn't matter. Not sure if I'd change the solar panel to a trade hub. I usually make a shipyard later down the line anyway, and you'll have 5 of those and just keep building them. But yes, star bases are good. Now the next point is about colonization. Now a lot has changed since 3.14, as the play was to just settle as many damn planets as you can, because we had a flat growth addition to it. I don't know, that basically you'd always get at least +3 to pop growth. Now this is different on new planets. Now while that's colonizing, if we look at our pop growth on our capital, and let's look at our stats, at the minute all we're getting is a base growth of 1 plus 1.86 from pops. Now the from pops is the big thing, so the base is 2 less than before, and we're basically making up from pops. So now the more pops you have on a planet, the more the pops grow, essentially. What this means is, on new colonies, the pop growth is actually going to be a negative. So we will have a look at this planet when it grows, but there's a way to get around it. Now, interestingly, the from pops also increases based on the housing and jobs, and there's lots of factors, but essentially, you want pops on your planet, you want jobs and housing. I'm not going to go into the weeds with it, because it gets very complicated, and that would be a separate video, I think. So we've got our new colony. Cool. We have 100 pops here. How are they growing? Base growth 1, minus 0.75 from low pops, and minus 5% for planet habitability. This is because below 100% you get some negatives. This means this planet's going to grow very, very slowly compared to 3.14. How do we fix this? Well, the optimal way is to use resettlement, which a lot of the times you can't do by default, but you can fix that. Come over to government, policies and edicts, resettlement, and allow it. Now, your factions might be a little bit annoyed if you have any, but it's going to be worth it. Trust me, they'll love it. Click play, and now you can click resettle. Now, the optimal amount to resettle here is around 1,000 to 1,500. So if we hover over, we're at 0.75. If we just move over to 600, we're out now plus 0.32, but this number can keep going up. Now, obviously, you don't want to do this if you have no civilians. Because we had so many civilians on our planet, this makes this a lot easier. And now you can see we're at like +1 with 1,000 pops. Unfortunately, they are all civilians, but you would be building up this planet so they can actually work the jobs. But this has now set up this planet very nicely to grow, and overall your pop growth across your empire is going to be increased. So at 0.86 there, we were on 2 point something here. For some reason now this has gone up. I believe it's because we've got way more housing free, so it even increases your pop growth on your capital. This is really unintuitive for players who played for a while, especially in 3.14, as this is not what you used to do. Now, I have seen if you do have the civilians to spare, people even say 1,500 is even more ideal, and you can see we're up to 1.32 growth. Be careful, as obviously you're not going to have many free jobs. You also don't have the monument down, which would give these civilians nice buffs there, but you really don't want to settle too many planets, especially when your civilian numbers are low. I would wait to go past your free starting planets until you've set these up, you've got them growing nicely, and you have excess civilians to then move over. over. Now these will automatically resettle over, but it's really slow. If you have the spare energy and unity, it's worth resettling them over. This does, however, change a little bit once you get some pop assembly, as the clone vat will just give you plus 1.5 monthly organic pop growth, which will actually help build these planets up even more. You can see we've got plus 0.21 as it's spreading that 1.5 across everyone. We do get a bit of a negative because of country growth scaling, but it's fine. Don't worry. This will help your planets grow even quicker, as well as robot assembly plants for roboticist jobs. You do have to work them, but you will start getting also pops grown here 2 a month. These are very, very useful to building up those new planets. So basically, too long, didn't read. Make sure there's at least 1,000 pops on new colonies. If you can't do that, make sure you have clone vats and robot assembly plants so you can grow pops to make the planet bigger, so then they can get to that 1k number. But you can see it even helps this planet out because we're at plus 4 from pops now. Also, clone vats are now a society of research option, so you don't need to be going the cloning ascension to actually get them. These are a must take if you see it as a tech and build them everywhere that you possibly can. Pops are very strong. If you're going to take anything away from this video, it's pop efficiency. Pops are the best resource. Take the pops. Pops, pops, pops. Now, if you have got your new planet, you don't have this many civilians, or you haven't gone mercantile to get amenities from civilians, your amenities will be struggling. Now, you'll come over to the amenities tab and be met with 2 options at the start. You might research some more, like the medical center. You have a choice between the Holo Theater and the Luxury Resident. Now, the Holo Theater will give entertainer jobs, which turn consumer goods into unity and amenities. Free-ish unity, 1,250 amenities for 2 consumer goods. This used to be the best option in 3.14. Things have changed in 4.0, it no longer is. You see, the Luxury Residence produces the same amount of amenities as the job production is only half of what it is, I believe. Let's build it. Tooltips are stupid sometimes, yeah. It was only saying 1 job, or at least 100 of the jobs in the tooltip. But the Luxury Resident will give you housing, which helps with pop growth, and amenities, the same amount, and no unity. The thing with the Luxury Resident is it doesn't use any jobs. And jobs and pops are the most important thing in the game. So getting the same amount of amenities, which you can just whack down, you get more housing, which helps with the pop growth, for free, just using a building slot, is insanely OP. You should be building these if you have amenity issues and never building the Holo Theater. There is not any point to the Holo Theater, I'm sorry, unless you maybe have duelists from them or something civic unique. But in general play, Holo Theaters suck. Now, you might get medical workers that help pop growth and give you the amenities, that's fine, but the small amount of unity you get from here, not worth it. This fact also makes Repugnant an S tier negative trait now, as it's a -2 for less Holo Theater amenities. We're not going to be building them. Take Repugnant, make your ugly species in 4.0. The next tip is to specialize. So that second world we probably would have turned into a consumer good world. That would look something like this. You can see it's purely producing consumer goods. There's multiple reasons for this. The fact that zones give jobs per district, and we can build 2 of them, so it's very efficient to just spam city districts on them. We can also set the designation to a factory world, which reduces upkeep. This world is ascended, so it's a bit stronger. It's usually -20%, which just saves on minerals. But also there's a bunch of buildings that buff stuff up now. For example, Distribution Design Center will get 15% more output. We can lower upkeep again by -20%. We can also get exotic gases, motes, crystals, and then even more jobs. Building slots are quite limited in 4.0. You need to specialize. You can have a consumer good world like this, or a mineral world like this, where we're getting mining supports, which are increasing mining output on a high quality mineral world. This world is producing 1,400 minerals. It's pretty good. Specialization is key. This is a year 90 run from my members only series, which you can watch exactly how I got here by signing up to the $5 tier. It's much appreciated. You also get a whole host of other benefits. But you can see every single world here is pretty much filled, with the exception of some having 1 district of each basic resource. Now, this is the next tip. Why do I do this? Mainly because if we don't have the districts on each one, we don't get access to the specialization, which means the building slots, as you can see here. There are some exceptions, like the alloy world and the consumer good you saw before, and that's because I'm turning them into eco-monopolists, where you have to have all city districts built to do that. But in general, if you're not doing that, it's really worthwhile to just build 1 of each. This is because you get the building slots, which allow you to build extra tech jobs, and even energy nexus, which gives more energy credits per technicians and a percentage output. So a measly little planet like this with 1 district built has 700 technician jobs producing 222 energy. 1 district. So the more planets you have, the more you can do this, and I don't really have many many dedicated worlds to basic resources. We have a couple, but we're mainly spamming technology, and that's how we got to 22k in 90 years. So in general, build one district of each everywhere. This will cure your deficits. Or you can even build the research support on planets that are hyper specialized, like the Society here. We have the Society district, which is increasing society output. Now, a lot of people ask me what to do with your capital. I will eventually turn this into a research world, but to start with, I will just spam city districts, as we start with the archive giving us science and unity jobs and a mixed industry for alloys and consumer goods. Once we start getting those consumer good worlds and those alloy worlds set up, then we can turn this into science. But you definitely want to get consumer goods flowing, alloys flowing on different planets, slowly specializing your empire. You can't instantly make this a full-on science world, unfortunately, like in 3.14, but you will be able to eventually. Now, I always harp on about using the market, but this is how you get a fast start by manipulating the market and selling different resources. As I always say, in my Discord, we have a pinned comment of the max buy and sell. This is important because if you go over the max buy and sell, it will start inflating the prices. If we just buy a bulk of 5,000 minerals, you can see it shot up by double the price. This won't instantly go down. You can see it slowly goes down. Buying at the max, for example, for minerals is 42, will keep that buy sell at the same price. So if we go to food, which we haven't inflated, and buy 42, we will buy 42 to go up by 0.1, but stay low. So we're always buying at 1.2. It's the most efficient way of buying resources. If you do want to mass buy, and then wait till it drops back down. Same with selling. Remember, this only works on the internal market. Once the galactic market has been set up, the prices can be affected by what other empires are buying and selling. It's just good to get off to a fast start. Now, speaking of these resources, it's good to have a good mindset of what you're doing with these resources. You should be balancing resources like energy, food, unless you're bioships, and consumer goods. Balancing is basically where you try and just stay to net plus 0, because having more of these doesn't really benefit your empire too much. If you're aiming for terraforming, or you want to buy something from Creator Order or Enclave, you might need more energy. If you're trying to settle a lot of planets, you might need a lot more consumer goods and food. But if you're not aiming for those, why do you have plus 100 food? As a mechanical ship empire, you don't really need that. You can sell that, or you don't need to build another food world. You should instead focus on tech, alloys, unity, and minerals to a degree. Minerals are quite useful early game to build up your planets, but later on in the game, if you have 2,000 minerals and nothing to spend them on, it doesn't matter. The reason being, tech and unity and alloys will further your empire more. Tech will give you more research, which can benefit your empire massively. Alloys will let you build ships, which means you can take over empires or defend yourself, and unity will let you advance traditions, which benefit your empire more. Focus on those resources. Speaking of research, the techs that buff up your science, like the Xenobiological Lab, is a must take, because it gives society researchers per 100 biologists +1 and 200 biologist jobs. These researched early on in the game and whacked down on your archives is insanely strong. For example, we're on 22 engineering research. We build a material workshop, we shoot up from 22 to 49, over doubling our technological output. So if you see those techs, take them, including the upgrades, which give you +2. This scales incredibly, especially if you get committed science worlds. It goes mad. On top of this, buildings such as the chemical plant, exotic gas refinery, and the crystal plant are insane. These give +1 per 100 of the alloy or consumer good workers, and if you have a dedicated consumer good world, whack them down, and you'll end up with hundreds of these rare resources per month. I have it on 2 planets, but this means you can do massive upgrades to these labs. These cost exotic gases. You can get insane battleships because parts will cost crystals and stuff. And worst case scenario, you will build up about 45,000 of them, and you can just sell them for insane amount of trade. Those techs are insane. They can supercharge your economy. And yes, the buy sell is in the Discord. I believe the max is free to sell, which is insane considering how much you're going to get. I use these tips and optimizing a build to rush down biological ascension, because ascension paths are also very, very strong. You can watch how right here. Look at now. Look at that.